Hello and welcome. My name is Errity and this is Wiseman Oracle and Tarot, and today I have a pick a card reading for you on your wonder child or your inner wonder child, the keys to your future. So I'll briefly share what I mean by that. Of course, I feel like most of us know or are aware that our inner child is the key to a lot of our grand visions and soul purpose and spiritual gifts and so on and so forth. And I have heard of the term wonder child from someone on Facebook that I follow. Her name is Chrissy Marie. She's a phenomenal being and offers a number of modalities and services to support people. Anyway, she talks about wonder children, and she got it from a book and from an author herself. So that's where I got it from. You can Google wonder child. I have no doubt you'll find the author and the ideas around this title. However, I'm using this term today to discuss that part of you, the inner child that's the dreamer, the wanderer, the one that wants to play and enjoy and bring about your higher destiny in that way. So if this lands for you, I encourage you to stick around, to like, subscribe, become a part of this family. Do press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications every single time a new reading pops up. And if you want to get to know more about me and my work and how I can best support you, you can check out those details below or at erritygreen.com. So from here, I will take a picture of the card piles and post it up here for you to do your choosing. You're choosing from left to right. Okay, card pile 1, your inner wonder child. Okay, so it's feeling like for me, I wanted to talk a little bit about what your wonder child is made up about, like what kind of composes them or comprises them, but I'm getting more messages. It's almost like your inner wonder child, which will be able to then derive who they are and what they want. But anyway, gotta make it complicated. So your inner wonder child wants you to step out of your comfort zone. It wants you to have more fun. It wants you to enjoy yourself more. It wants you to experience being alive and to not focus so much on working or completing a task or doing the thing or having an agenda for the moment or an agenda for the day. Like, what would it be like to live free form, right? Or to live free range, to live by the seat of your pants, to be a little bit more spontaneous. Again, be more playful, as opposed to sort of this rigorous demands that you set for yourself in terms of, you know, doing this to do that, and I got to do this, and I got to do that, and I got to pay these bills, and whatever those practical constraints and realities are that we all have. But your inner child just wants you to flourish. It wants you to go out there and live loud and live large and enjoy yourself some more. It's almost like your inner child becomes sort of ragged and drained from the lack of play, because that inner child, as well as you, are invigorated by play. You know, you're invigorated and energized by joy. There's something about experiencing this life and everything it has to offer, and climbing and getting in your body and running and chasing and playing and tickling and all the things that we can do in these physical human bodies. All that stuff is energizing, and it's good for the soul. It's soul food, and that's what your wonder child wants for you, and ultimately itself. It's one and the same, more or less. And if they're kind of giving this message that if you're finding that you are drained or exhausted or unfulfilled or unsatisfied or something of that nature, it's because of that. So your primary quote unquote issue, at least according to this reading and the topic we have here, is that you need more joy, more play in your life. Again, stepping out of your comfort zone of always having an agenda or an intention. Like, what would it be like to just live right here, this moment, and see what arises and see what occurs, and just ride the wave that is here right now, even being more spontaneous. Yeah. So your wonder child also wants to remind you that I feel like it says your hard work is paying off. So I think part of the message may very well be around, trust that your hard work is paying off, trust that it's all working out. When a child doesn't sit there and think about, oh, this needs to get done, or at least in the beginning, there's an innocence there. They're not like assuming failure or assuming a mistake, or like going back and checking their work. That's something that is perfected maybe over time, or molded or shaped over time. Instead, they're just much more kind of in the moment, like, I did this and I move on. And there's this kind of energy to just like not always, like, I guess, perfecting everything or making it have to be perfect, and it all has to be just so, and it all has to meet this requirement, and it has to be this expectation, it has to be right now, and it has to be next week, and there's these deadlines and these performance requirements, and like it's being graded or something like that. It's like that doesn't have to be the way. And this might not even be something that you recognize in yourself. But the wonder child is saying, can't we just like do the thing and let that be enough? Can't we just sweep, and if there's still some dirt on the floor, that's enough? Can't we just make this simple and make it easy? Isn't it just enough? Is it just enough to do one thing or clean one thing and leave the rest? Like that kind of thing. So it's like letting things be, letting things go. Not overdoing it or complicating it or analyzing it or trying to perfect everything. Now, there is this message here, though, that this pattern might be rooted in either past life or your childhood in this life. I feel like it could go one of both ways or both ways. But perhaps you had to keep everything up to performance standard, or else, there was hell to pay, or you'd be punished, or you'd have to do it again, or whatever. And so it's almost like you just resigned to just working. Like, okay, well, if that's how this is going to be, then I'll just follow the rules and do what I have to do, and then everything will be good. I don't have to receive any flack, and it'll all be okay. So it's like you sort of resigned to that, and your wonder child wants more for you. Again, it wants you to outstretch your arms, and it wants you to run and jump and play, and not take everything too seriously, and not assume that everything has to be, meet some performance standard. Like, it's almost like dance for the sake of dancing, not because it's going to be seen and witnessed on a stage and judged for performance or competition. You see the difference there? So there is a message around that, just doing things for the sake of doing it and letting it be good enough. Okay, so let's see what else is here. Yeah, again, balance spirituality and practicality, celebration, playing more, enjoying yourself, even finding ways to dance in the rain. So if it is a hard day or gloomy day, allowing yourself to order the pizza and not make such a big deal about making it this perfect healthy meal or whatever. That's just a random example. You guys can apply that to your own circumstances, but it's like, finding a way to dance in the rain. Even when life is challenging, how can you bring some joy to it? And I have an example for you actually that's personally relevant. So I am going to share it such that my son is still pretty young. He's almost 5, and I'm not asking for anybody's feedback on parenting or anything at all. Just as an FYI, just throw that out there because it is social media. But I'm sharing on, I've been working on finding a way for him to learn choice and consequence. So that when I make this choice, I experience this. And when I make that choice, I experience that. But not in a harmful or punitive way, so that he's not feeling shame or ashamed or penalized or punished for just living life, trial and error, and figuring things out. Not that he doesn't have like a naughty side to him, because he does. All of that to say, I have decided that, when he does something that I deem, and he knows the house rules and what's required of him, and I won't share all of those details here because let's keep it short, but I have set some ground rules and such, like if there's a couple of these things that occur, then we go outside for the rest of the day. So it's kind of funny because it's not even a punishment. Clearly outside is amazing, and who doesn't love being outside? So there's that. But for kids, in this era, at this age, probably not their favorite thing, just to automatically go outside and spend the whole evening there. And I go out there with him. My point there being is that we can even make the best of difficult situations. So even if he's done something that is deemed inappropriate, like hitting or throwing, something like that, there has to be a consequence. And so it's, we're not playing with toys and electronics, but we are going to go outside for the rest of the night. We can rake leaves. We can take a walk. We can clean up earth. We can do things like that. It's not exactly what he wants, but it's still something meaningful. So it's just like finding the joy, the silver lining, learning how to dance in the rain. Your wonder child wants you to be a little bit more creative and spontaneous and innovative with how you live your life, so that all those practical details can be enjoyable. It doesn't have to be hard, right? It's also doing just enough and letting it be good enough. We already got some of that. Yeah, they also want you to enjoy just living life, being in this body, having fun, even experiencing some of your sensuality or sexuality, but it feels just like connecting to the senses, what your eyes see and receive, what you smell, what you taste. How is it just to slow down long enough to be able to really taste your food and to touch, and what it's like to touch and have your feet on the earth, a cold surface versus a hard surface. And when you drink even, what does that feel like? Just really being present and soulful and connected in your everyday life to really experience what it's like to be in this physical body, in this physical world that gets to take everything in this manner through this instrument. And it is a unique experience, if not a rare one. And so your wonder child wants you to really enjoy thriving in this body. Usually children love being in a body. They get to play, they get to dance. And then over time, our movement becomes less and less, or at least more narrow and rigid. And your body wants to move and shake and, maybe dance, but play and run. And so your wonder child, the keys to your future, to sum it up, is to, you know, step out of your comfort zone, allow yourself to live a little bit more loudly, to express yourself more, to express in your body more. It's about letting yourself celebrate, even in the hard times, even through the practical constraints and practical tasks of everyday life. It's about slowing down and allowing the richness of life be a part of your experience, like really getting into how rich and bountiful and beautiful life is when we slow down long enough to actually receive it, right? We have to receive it. And what was that other one about hard work is paying off? It was a message there. You see, it comes through and it doesn't always stick. So I'll let you remember that and summarize it for yourself. Maybe you guys will even throw me a comment below. Errity, it was this, duh. But anyway, that's what your inner child wants. That's who your wonder child is. It's someone who's spontaneous and playful and revitalized and enjoying being in the body. And it's not always tied down to, you know, all work and no play. Like it's actually all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Exactly. So they don't want it to be all work, all agenda, all a task list, all that stuff. They want to come alive outside of like the bounds of that kind of limited reality and identity. So if this lands for you and resonates, I encourage you to like, to subscribe. Please do press the bell icon. That way you receive a notification every single time a new reading pops up. I also want to let you know you can check out the details below or erritygreen.com to learn more about me, my work, and how I can best support you. Thank you, card pile 1. Okay, card pile 2. This is your wonder child and the keys to your future. So instead of feeling, they don't want you to feel so like that your identity has to be so controlled or so well thought out or so well sort of prepared or whatever. So perhaps in a lot of ways you've had to wear masks or feel like you have to present yourself in a certain way or talk a certain way or act a certain way or adhere to certain social rules or use certain words or do this or be that. And it's not like suggesting that you're being intentionally inauthentic. It just feels like in so many ways you're holding yourself back, holding yourself down. I do feel like there's this sliver, this feeling that, you know, perhaps as a child you were taught to like be a certain way and play this certain role, right? Like back in the day, the generational teaching was children are meant to be seen and not heard. That can be internalized by children, and then they find that they are a little bit quieter as they age, that they don't allow themselves to quote unquote take up space. They aren't really expressive with who they are. They aren't very creative. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't have these qualities, you know, more or less in some way. There is rigidity or narrowness or control in how you present yourself, how you express yourself, how you carry yourself in this world, how you occupy yourself. In one way or another, you're holding back, holding down, suppressing, not allowing, shifting, adjusting, and or manipulating in order to achieve an outcome as opposed to just being yourself in the moment and seeing what pops up. So your wonder child wants you to be your full, glorious self. Whatever that is, as fantastic or brilliant or what's the word, flamboyant, that or colorful as it is, it wants you to be that self. And it doesn't mean you have to be those things. It doesn't automatically mean that you're, you know, this expressive, creative, flamboyant person when you might not be. But it's saying, you know, you can let your hair down a little bit. You can allow yourself to soften, to relax, to surrender, to let something slip, you know, to not hold it all in and hold it so tight and it all has to be this way. In some ways, whether you realize it or not, it feels like you might have some rigidity, and it's tied to solar plexus. If you are familiar with that, I don't know what that would mean for each of you, but it came up. So perhaps it has to do with, you know, power and control and, you know, wanting to be in control and wanting to maintain your power. And if you don't, then these kind of calamities will happen, right? We have those belief systems. And so you hold on tight, you hold on tight, and you're not going to budge this way or that way. It's all going to be like perfectly controlled, this whole like performance or persona, so that you can achieve whatever outcome, love, approval, secure resources. But your wonder child wants you to be you, fully you, whatever that looks like, whatever it is. There are no rules. So it's just being true to yourself in whatever way. Now, your wonder child, though, of course, is the key to some of that. So who were you as a child that you are not now? What kinds of things did you do as a child that you don't do any longer? What kinds of things did you love as a child that you haven't attended to in some time? So taking a look back at your childhood and even the ways that you felt like you were held down or held back, like maybe you always wanted to take dance class, but your parents couldn't afford it. So clearly your wonder child likes to dance. Or perhaps you always wanted to sing, but then you were told to shut up. And so now, even though it turned out to be a negative experience and you silenced yourself, You know you want to sing. So which way, you're being encouraged, though, to take a look at all the things the Wonder Child wanted or loved or enjoyed or found freedom in, and all the ways in which it was shamed, punished, or punitized, or silenced or censored, because I don't think punitized is a word, but, you know, for the sake of the reading, we'll act like it is. And take a look at that so you can determine, if you don't already know, the ways in which you want to actually express yourself. You can also look at the ways you feel tight, the ways you feel constricted. What ways do you feel like tight, like you really can't open up? You know, you take a look at that, because that will give you keys too to how your Wonder Child wants to be expressed. Yeah, so I feel like, you know, whatever it was in the past, whether it was your childhood, authority figures, parents, or just over the years telling yourself you couldn't be a certain way, or you had to follow certain rules, you had to suppress certain desires. Again, there's some kind of molding of a persona in order to secure an outcome. So maybe it's also fear of disapproval, fear of a lack of love, you know, any number of things in terms of securing an outcome, whether you want something or trying to avoid something. It's like you decided to kind of place these rules for yourself, but now it's almost like, you know, it's like the whole walking on eggshells thing, where, and not that you feel like that all the time, you know, but it's like you feel like you always have to do something or be something or meet a certain rule or be a certain way in order to secure an outcome. And it makes you very sort of rigid or hyper aware or hyper vigilant and unable to fully just like be in your body and enjoy yourself. So yeah, you're really preventing yourself from experiencing everything that you want to in life. You know, it's like you're holding yourself back from enjoying yourself or experiencing more joy, kind of experiencing the richness, the fruits that life has to offer. You're holding yourself back from that. I also feel like there is that thread of shame and punishment here for this pile, meaning for some of you, your parents, caregivers, authority figures, they punished this out of you. They punished your creative expression or your inner Wonder Child out of you. And again, you know, parents make mistakes, and a part of our conditioning and a part of our experience in earth and the human condition is experiencing limitation in whatever form. And oftentimes our soul agreements and soul contracts have some of these challenges and experiences outlined before our human experience. With that said, you know, that's a heavy burden to carry. And so card pile 2, it's time to release those pains of the past and the shadows that haunt you from the past. The ways in which you felt like you couldn't show up and be yourself or voice your opinion or dance or sing or whatever it is, where you feel like you need to shut it up, silence it, pipe down, sit down, hide away, never talk again, you know, basically don't exist, whatever, you know. And of course I'm being sarcastic, but I'm also speaking to kids probably internalized those messages. So if that's the case, that's time to be released so you can become your full, colorful, vibrant, true self, which is the full expression of the Wonder Child or the inner child. Yeah, and so again, you know, you're in some ways, card pile 2, you are still clinging to the past. So these rules aren't there anymore. These guidebooks probably aren't there anymore, like meaning like these sort of illusory guidebooks that people are giving you, that you have to follow a certain rule or act a certain way or say a certain something, and if you don't, you're in trouble. It's like those things aren't there anymore. You might see that they are because you're carrying the illusion, the falsehoods from the past, but it's actually no longer true. And so you're being encouraged, card pile 2. Look around at your environment without the goggles of your past and your pains and your wounding, and just look around and see and be completely honest and transparent with yourself. Is there, you know, is that energy still there? And the likelihood, and what the reading is saying is no. It's saying that was something from the past, the distant past. It might be a shadow that haunts you, but it only lives in you. You aren't being punished or penalized for being yourself. There aren't any rules that you have to be yourself. Most of you, if not all of you, because I always recommend 18 and up for my readings, are empowered sovereign adults. You can do whatever the fuck you want, if you didn't know. So there are no rules that you have to follow. And so I feel like there's like this flow, this organic rhythm that kind of wants to come alive in you, that again isn't sort of held down or nailed down to these rules that you've set for yourself that were internalized based on perhaps even, you know, shame and punishment, like we said. But that shame and punishment is existing in your mind. It is no longer a physical reality in your experience. So you're being encouraged to release that so you can see clearly, so that you can receive, and so that you can be in joy in your life and with the people around you. Yeah, so let's see. Again, you know, feeling like you're having to compromise yourself or negate yourself or divide yourself. You might even feel like you have an angel on your shoulder, devil on your shoulder, or two sides like a Gemini. There's a party that's good and there's a party that's bad. It's bad, like good girl, good boy, bad boy. You know, you have two sides of yourself, and who knows which one's coming out and when. But it's like you've become split because you suppress these other sides to yourself because you've made these rules out of shame and punishment for yourself, but you honestly can't adhere to them because it's a whole, your whole self includes both. But the problem is you suppress everything, you kind of put it into a box, so it hides away over here, but there's no way to like hold it down forever. It's going to come out, and it can come out in a number of ways. For some people, it might be through compulsions and addictions. For some people, it's going to come out through like anger or OCD. Some people, it's going to come out, it's going to manifest in one way or another when you're suppressing that energy. So the point here is your wonder child wants you to allow yourself to be your whole, fully actualized self, all the parts of you. There aren't any rules. You get to decide your rules. Nobody else has any rules for you anymore. If you believe you have rules, those are your own rules. You've internalized them that were perhaps rules in your external reality years and years and years ago, but they're no longer there. So you get to decide how this goes. You get to decide on your own rules. And again, when you hold all this stuff back, you bring about these sort of fiery, you know, angsty climaxes of conflict or confrontation, either with yourself or with others, because you're holding down this energy and you're believing that you're being shamed, you're believing that you're being punished. But the original sort of wounder of this wound, you know, it feels like it's from your past, from your childhood. This could be, again, a parent, caregiver, authority figure. That's where the accountability for this lies. And then with you for carrying it these years, but now, you know, there's no shame or harm in that, right? Well, there might have been harm, but unintentional. So now you just have the opportunity to let it go now that you know that. The rules aren't real. The shame and punishment are no longer real. You get to decide whether you keep these or not. And if you don't, they'll continue to manifest in sort of subversive, under the radar ways that maybe you don't even like in yourself. But if you allow yourself and give yourself full permission to just be yourself, you release all of that. So card pile 2, if this resonates, I encourage you to like, subscribe, do press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications every single time a reading pops up. I'd also like to let you know that you can check out the details below or go to my website, erritygreen.com, if you want to learn more about me and my work and how I can support you. Thank you, card pile 2. Okay, card pile 3. This is your wonder child, the keys to your future. So yeah, you're being encouraged to take those leaps, to do something new, to do something different. I even got the word festive. So I don't know what that means or why, but perhaps that lands for somebody because it's so random. I'm going to go ahead and share it. But more or less to do the thing, to make the move, to take the leap, to take the risk. Of course, my disclaimer is please do not let my advice take the place of yours or of any professional's advice or who's an expert, you know, uses their expertise in a particular area. Trust yourself and don't rely on a YouTube reading. With that said, I do trust everything I say, or everything I share. But it's saying, you know, make the move because you're being encouraged or you're wanting to make a move, to make a change. Maybe it's moving out of state or changing residence, changing a job, taking the promotion, saying yes, doing the thing, making the investment, showing up, putting your money where your mouth is. I'm trying to give a bunch of examples where you're given an opportunity for a shift, for a transformation, for an upgrade, and perhaps you're worrying about it and you're not sure of it or whatever, but your wonder child, what's coming through in this reading is that you and your loved ones are safe. You are assured safekeeping through this transition. In fact, it's what your soul wants. It's what you want. That's why you're pursuing it. You were pursuing it. You are pursuing it. You probably even asked for it. The universe brings it to you, and then you're like, oh, not sure. That's more your limited mind, your egoic mind. And it doesn't mean that we won't always have challenges when we make big changes or choose an opportunity. Life will still happen, you know? So it's just a determination as to whether it's worth it. You know, is it worth it for me to accept these challenges over these ones? Well, heck yes, if it brings me my soul's calling, what I said I wanted. So you're being encouraged to make the move, to take the leap, to make the jump. And you're being assured your safety as well as you and your family's safekeeping if you do have a family or someone that relies on you. But you are being given this reassuring message that everything's in right order for you to do what you need to do. And it's just a matter of like following your heart, following your desires, like letting even that be enough. Just not even thinking too much about, it's almost like there's this balance, of course, of practicality and risk. With that said, if we go too far on the side of a risk, then, you know, that's crumbling all the time, a house of cards. But if we side all the time with safekeeping, practicality, we never make any moves, and we live in a comfortable, familiar, yet unfulfilling reality. So there's this perfect balance here of, if you dotted your I's and crossed your T's, and I feel like this group has, because otherwise you wouldn't be worried or concerned, and maybe you would, but whatever. I feel like this group has, and if you haven't, do that. You're going to take the leap here. Your soul, your child, your inner child wants you to take this leap, to make the move. It's meant to be. This is a part of your soul's path. Yeah. So the energy is gaining momentum. So whatever it is you're wanting to materialize and actualize is coming through for you now, and it's coming in the form of whatever opportunity this is, whatever shift or transformation, and you're being asked to trust it and to take that leap. If you don't take the leap, right? It's just, it's not going to materialize. It's as simple as that. There's no wrongdoing. There's no shame in that. You get to do what you want to do. But it's saying, if this is what you want, pursue it. It's worth it. And then whatever comes up on the path of that, then so be it. Nothing is truly a piece of cake. But, if it's something that we want, at least it tastes like cake, So there's this message from the Wonder Child that to take risks, to take the leap, to think innocently, beginner's mind, see with fresh eyes, to not get too burdened down or weighed down by the practicalities and the pros and cons and the risk and benefit and all the analysis paralysis and all that stuff, where you tend to then return to your comfort zone and not make any moves, because you're being asked to see beyond illusion, beyond the 3D, beyond the physical dimension, beyond the egoic mind, beyond all the rules and the shoulds and the practicalities and the practical constraints. It's like there's a world of creativity out there, a world of art, of limitlessness, of all things that could be. It's like there's this, beautiful energy of, abstract art, like all these possibilities existing out there for you. And yet you might have been a person up until now, or at least most of the time, and I think many of us, you kind of choose the familiar, the comfortable, the safe, and your inner child's like, don't you realize all the possibility available to you? Don't you realize the potential available for you? Like there's so much more, but it's going to require you to see beyond your current awareness, beyond your current reality, beyond your current mindset, beyond the current limitations. It's going to have to be seen and sort of tapped into in terms of like the universal mind of kind of entering that realm of like where everything is not as it seems, and everything that's up is down, everything that's down is up. Just kind of feels like this Alice in Wonderland, Labyrinth, that was a movie in the 80s, like vibe, where it's like nothing is what it seems, everything is weird. And it's like just letting yourself kind of enter that realm that's kind of lawless. And there are no rules, and you get to do as you please. And in that space, you get to create whatever. Like you have like, it's like this ultimate muse where you get to kind of create literally whatever you want. And I feel like what's coming through with that visual is like, we tend to see everything so boxed in and just so, because we're used to the physical reality with cars and houses and everything looking a certain way. But what's coming through here is there's actually this whole formlessness that is like the truth of this whole nature of this reality that offers so much more than we can imagine in just our human minds. And it's like you can tap into that at any time. There's all of that available to you in any moment. And so it's like letting yourself enter that realm and sort of create from that place, as opposed to that limited, physical, restrained, physical reality. Yeah. So again, you might be the person who tells yourself nothing will come of this situation. This is pointless. What's the point? You might have all these, again, kind of self-defeating commentary or self-sabotaging behaviors where you sort of, again, always return to the practical, always return to the comfortable, always return to the familiar. Easy does it. You kind of tell yourself those old adages, is that the word? I don't even know. I read things, I don't always hear them. And so like you tell yourself all this old whatever, and then you live by them, and it's like, well, are those really true? Are those just excuses so you can continue to live in your limited reality, but then be sort of unfulfilled that you haven't moved forward or broken through those limits? So I feel like there's this opportunity to leave kind of like that whole typical status quo, practical level mindset that you tend to carry yourself with, and kind of to a degree leave that behind, or at least make it available that you enter the creative. It's almost like the practical versus the creative. So the more you can step into that mindset of creativity, or into the awareness and embodiment of the creative, it feels like that's where you're going to find a lot more of your fulfillment, your satisfaction, even being able to quote unquote manifest. Okay, if you're sitting here bogged down by the rules and shoulds and how everything works in the physical reality, it's going to be difficult for you to create and achieve what it is that you want, because you're living within the world of form and abiding by those rules. And those rules in most human systems at this point are relying on power, domination, control, exploitation, and manipulation. So unless you want to be abiding by those rules, you probably don't if you're here on this channel. So you're going to have to live by a different set of rules. That's going to be by the universe's rules. That trumps all those other human rules, especially because our rules and structures and systems are built up and based on fear. So your wonder child wants you to enter this realm of possibility, this realm of creativity, this realm of potential, to start entering that place, that orientation, that worldview, that embodiment, that mindset when you go to make a choice, when you go to make a decision, when you go to say yes, when you go to problem solve, leaving the world of the practical behind without all these rules and ideas of how it's supposed to be or how it's looked before, and instead entering the realm of possibility. So that's what's coming up for you. Seeing with a grander eye, with a truer intelligence, with creativity itself, becoming creativity itself, not boxed in. Yeah, again, surrendering to the divine. So stepping into, again, that realm of creativity, that realm of potential. The divine, the higher mind is a much more available and expansive mind than we could ever occupy in our limited human form, with our limited human minds. We will only continue to come up with limitation because we are in the world of form, which is inherently limited. But you're being asked, your wonder child wants to be creative, wants to be expressive, wants to step out, wants to shine. And it's not telling me what it is or how it is you want to express or create uniquely. So I'm imagining that most of you, card pile 3, you're here because you know why you're here. And so you're just getting the basic advice / guidance to apply to your particular situation. And do share your comments below if that's the case. But you're being asked to surrender to the divine and not always do it the way you have before. To step out of the conditioning, step out of the rule book, maybe enter the abstract, enter the bizarre, enter the world of the unfamiliar, and just see what happens from there. Start using that more as your template for decisions, choices, reality itself, and all of those things, as opposed to that very practical, limited, narrow, and rigid mindset that tends to hold you back and prevent you from fully actualizing, expressing, and feeling fulfilled. So with that, card pile 3, I bid you adieu, and I want to share that if you do like this video, please do like, subscribe, press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications every single time a video pops up. And of course, if you want to learn more about me and my work and how I can support you, you can check out the details below or visit erritygreen.com. Thank you, card pile 3.